This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the US. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano. The Other Side of Midnight presents The Midnight Files.
Midnight in the desert, shooting stars across the sky. This magical journey will take us on a ride, filled with the longing, searching for the truth. Will we make it till tomorrow? Will the sun shine on you? Midnight in the desert, and we're listening. Ooh, we're listening to you.
Recently, I learned about this fascinating new documentary and book called The King of UFOs, which deals with the royal family, namely, especially Prince Philip, and the obsession that they have with the paranormal, including UFOs. That's why they call Prince Philip the King of UFOs. And I saw the movie. I thought it was absolutely fascinating. I did a commentary on the interesting things that the movie talks about, and I was really appreciative that the documentarian responsible for this reached out to me and were able to bring you a conversation on this. Now, if you haven't heard about this yet, here's a little bit of the trailer for The King of UFOs, which you can watch for free on Tubi. Here's The King of UFOs.
Join us now on this riveting journey as we explore the British royal family's unique fascination with the unknown.
The royal family has been interested in UFOs for decades. This was always a matter of extreme sensitivity.
Documents going way back to the 50s.
The Queen sent scientific advisors to crop circles. They know more about it. They want to find out more.
Of course there's life somewhere else. And the royal family believe it.
Do you think the technology US pilots are seeing now in the skies could be linked to what Charles was flying?
This will leak, and it will cause quite a scandal.
There were dome-like projections around each of the pilots. Charles and his engineering crew were familiar with the craft.
So many sighting reports.
What are they here for? What's Charles going to respond to? Their interest is based on factual knowledge that they've been able to get access to that we don't.
It would alarm people. My God, these things are dangerous. It's a bit like a Pandora's box. If we took the lid off and looked inside, we'd never be the same again.
If that sounds compelling, that's because it is. Some of you may recognize the voice of one of our frequent guests, Nick Pope, who is featured prominently in this. At 30 minutes after the hour, this is The Other Side of Midnight, and I am very pleased to welcome the documentarian responsible for this opus, which everybody is now talking about. Mark Christopher Lee, he wears many hats: musician, UFO enthusiast, filmmaker, author. The book and the documentary is called The King of UFOs, Royal UFO Secrets Revealed. Mark, it's great to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Frank. Much appreciated.
So, as I mentioned, you're a musician, pretty accomplished musician. You've made an appearance in that Guinness Book of World Records, from what I understand. How did you go from music to all this UFO stuff? Describe to me your career trajectory.
Sure. Well, I've always been interested in UFOs since growing up as a kid in the 70s. There was a TV program in the UK called Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World. Arthur C. Clarke was the author of 2001 Space Odyssey, but was also a scientist and inventor of the communication satellite. And he did this really great program on the paranormal, the unexplained, and UFOs were in there as well. And it was like, wow, it's kind of opened my mind. So since then, I've been kind of looking into UFOs, researching them. And then it was last year I was lucky enough to meet this retired police detective called John Hanson. He was on the trailer as the last voice you heard. And it was when I met him and he showed me letters that he received from the Queen and Prince Philip about UFOs. It kind of blew my mind. I was like, whoa, I did not know this connection. And then after speaking to him and doing more research, I found all these fascinating stories, which I just wanted to put into a film, really.
I realize this question may seem silly to you and to anybody that's spent time in Great Britain, but I don't think it's a silly question when speaking to American audiences. Obviously, people put a lot of stock into what the royal family says. And I guess my question is, why? The royals have no power over anything, at least not on an official level. They're supported entirely by the taxpayers. Why does anyone care what the royals' opinion are or is on any subject?
Yeah, really good question. I mean, they do have a lot of a kind of cultural power. They've been figureheads of the state for such a long time, and people do look up to them still, even now. You know, as we get into a more modern population, more diverse, the royal family still has, you know, a big role to play. And part of this film was about how such serious, well-respected people like Prince Philip, the Queen, even King Charles, you know, they take UFOs and the paranormal seriously. So why shouldn't we? And, you know, you mentioned Nick Pope. Is in the film quite a lot. I know Nick really well. You know, he lives in New York. But, you know, over in the US, you've got disclosure, UFO disclosure movement. We don't have that in the UK. And I want to use this film to try and push for that. You know, it's a serious issue and serious people are looking into it.
Yeah, I mean, and Nick's a great guy, and we'll look forward to having him back on the radio soon. We in fact, we kicked him out of New York. He's back in Arizona now, dealing with the triple-digit heat. So couldn't cut it here. They say if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. He couldn't make it here, apparently. And by the way, we're talking with the director of a fascinating film. It's on Tubi. People can watch it for free. It's called The King of UFOs. It's also a book which is available on Amazon. You can get it either by searching Mark Christopher Lee or by searching the King of UFOs. It comes right up. If you are just tuning in, I'm Frank Morano. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Now, let's go over some of the subjects that you cover in this film and book, Mark. It's not just UFOs, but apparently the royals have an interest and a fascination in a wide variety of paranormal activity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this goes back to Prince Albert, who was Queen Victoria's husband. He was the first royal that had an official UFO encounter. And that was, he made an entry in his diary about seeing a strange orb in the sky. And then this led on to when he died, Queen Victoria wanted to contact the afterlife. So we had seances, and they became massive in Victorian times. And Queen Victoria was conducting seances. And we see this, you know, going through the 40s and 50s as well. And then more recently, we've had the Queen and Prince Philip show a real passion for crop circles. I know there are links between possibly crop circles and UFOs, but the Queen actually sent one of her advisors out in the middle of the night to Wiltshire in the UK to see a crop circle being formed. And there's various letters on file that requesting books and articles on crop circles. So they do have this fascination with weird phenomena, which I think is great.
So just to go back to Queen Victoria, she would actually participate in seances?
Yeah, she would. She was trying to contact Albert, her deceased husband. That was the prime mission. And it was at the time when spiritualism was seen as quite a serious thing, and you had respected authors like Arthur Conan Doyle, the Sherlock Holmes author. He was investigating, seances and contacting the dead, and it was taken very, very seriously. So Queen Victoria was trying to make connection with her recently deceased husband.
And so it's not just UFOs. The royals have been into ghosts and stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, you have to realize that we've got a lot of history, here in the UK, and a lot of old historic castles, and there's a lot of history gone on, a lot of murders, a lot of bad things happened, and some say these spirits of these dead people that went through trauma are hanging around. So we've, for instance, we got the ghost of Anne Boleyn, one of Henry VIII's deceased executed wives. She's been the most frequently spotted ghost. And they've got Queen Elizabeth I. She's been seen quite a lot. Got Windsor Castle is very, very haunted. And even more recently, Prince William and Princess Catherine, they've seen a ghost at their home in Norfolk, on the Sandringham estate, of a Catholic priest that was murdered. And his ghost is hanging around. But the great thing is, they'd Royal House, it's haunted. We live with it. It exists. It's no big deal. And I kind of like that attitude that, it's here. We live alongside it. It's no big deal. Just get on with it.
So how do we know that that's the royals' attitude? What's the sourcing for knowing that the royals kind of have this less than hysterical approach when it comes to the ghosts that they're living with?
Sure. I mean, we interviewed and spoke with Richard Felix, who's a respected paranormal historian, and he's had sources from the royal household confirm to him these stories. So that's basically where it comes from. And also Prince William has gone on record last year, I think it was, to say that, our house is haunted. We live with it. It's fine. So, he's actually gone on the record to say that, which is cool.
And so you alluded to Prince William there, who one day, if all goes according to plan, will be the king. You mentioned that he has a pretty good attitude when it comes to ghosts and stuff. Do we know if he shares his grandfather, Prince Philip's, interest in the UFO phenomenon?
No, unfortunately, we don't at the moment. We know that King Charles does. There's quite a few stories about him having his own UFO experiences. So we kind of just imagine a scenario where the whole family's gathering at Balmoral in Scotland, maybe over the Christmas holidays, and they're all chatting about ghosts and UFOs and things like that. So, you hope there is a connection down and that, King William will have this interest, because it's going to get an even bigger issue. I know it's pretty big in the US already, but I'm hoping we, in the UK, start pushing for answers to the questions, because, I do think there is something out there. I don't know what it is. I don't pretend to know what it is, but it needs serious investigation.
Throughout the film, there are several references to what happened at Rendlesham. This has been called the UK's version of Roswell. What exactly happened, as far as we know? What's the speculation about what's happened? And what have the royals taken an interest in regarding Rendlesham?
Sure. It was over Christmas weekend in 1980, and it was a joint UK and US Air Force base in Norfolk. It's called RAF Bentwaters. And over that weekend, these US servicemen saw strange lights coming from Rendlesham Forest. And they went to investigate, and some claimed that a UFO landed. There was beams of light coming down from the sky. And the commander of the base at the time, Colonel Holtz, who I've spoken to, says something definitely happened that weekend. May have been a UFO, may have been something else. But it's been dubbed the British Roswell. And what's interesting I found is that it's not just that 1980 incident. There's people that have been back to that area since and seen UFOs. And I've actually got a video of a UFO from 2000 that was seen by that police officer I referred to, John Hanson, who has this UFO archive. And yeah, it's definitely something unexplained. And we went back more recently for a new film we're doing on the British Roswell. And we had some weird phenomena that we couldn't explain. So there's something weird about the place. It's almost like, I know you've got Skinwalker Ranch in the US. It's something similar to that, where you've got all this weird, unexplained phenomena happening, UFOs, orbs, paranormal entities. It's very, very strange. And the Queen and Prince Philip were sent the books that John Hanson, this police detective, wrote on Rendlesham with Colonel Holt, who was, head of the base at the time. And they really loved his books, and were writing back, asking questions, asking for more details and things like that. So they showed a big interest in Rendlesham, and maybe some say they knew more than actually what we know. So, and that's my guess, I think.
You referenced crop circles and the Queen's interest in crop circles and their formation. Remind folks, what are crop circles?
Yeah, I mean, basically crop circles are weird, usually circular patterns in fields of wheat or barley. They happen in the UK quite a lot, also all over the world. And no one can explain how they're formed. And the way they're created is that they create kind of a vortex pattern, and strange things happen in them, like people's equipment fail, electronic equipment fails, batteries are drained, phones don't work, people start feeling uneasy in them. So they are kind of weird and unexplained. I mean, so a couple of guys came out in the 90s to say that they hoaxed them with a couple of planks, and that does account for some of them. But there are a lot all over the world that just can't, and they're getting more and more complex. And the Queen was fascinated by them, and I still think there's a mystery there, possibly linking them to UFOs, because some people have seen orbs of light.
What did the Queen determine when she sent people to go out and watch those crop circles being formed?
Well, she sent her scientific advisor to have a look at what was going on. It was in Wiltshire in the late 80s, and there was a Japanese film crew actually filming this crop circle that had just appeared. And the Queen's advisor turned up, just taking photographs and measurements and things like that. We don't actually know what the Queen thought about it, but we do know that she had an interest.
If you're having problems with your septic system and you're tired of spending so much money each year to have it pumped, then SeptiClean is the answer for you. SeptiClean is an advanced specially formulated blend of bacteria used in the treatment of home and commercial septic systems. The breakdown of waste in your system relies on biological activity of naturally occurring bacteria. SeptiClean restores the natural biological process in your septic system and boosts the existing biological activity. SeptiClean is completely safe on all plumbing and can help prevent expensive emergencies in pumping. SeptiClean has approximately 6 to 100 times the bacteria count of other leading off-the-shelf brands in a 1-year supply. SeptiClean comes in a water-soluble pack, which you flush down the toilet once a month with no mess or stress. Save time, money, and maintenance on your septic system. Find SeptiClean at Emporium True Value Hardware on Main Street in Sag Harbor, or visit micro-tab.com. That's micro-tabb.com. Micro-tabb.com.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injury is an additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
No. One of the things that I learned in watching your film is that Prince Philip's collection of paranormal books and materials is apparently going to be remain under steel for something like 90 years. What's the rationale behind that? What is Prince Philip afraid that people are going to learn by looking at his collection?
Yeah, I mean, this is the royal. They're like their secrets, I think, and I think also we have to be aware that there's probably more than just UFO paranormal stuff in there. There's probably personal stuff in there, possible, relating to other relationships and things like that, more personal stuff, but they want to keep secret because it would put the monarchy in a bad light. But the British royals have always had their secrets, personal and otherwise. So, and they want to keep them secret because they want to keep their kind of status, as head of state, I guess.
You mentioned the collection from one of the authors that is in the film of books that he sent. Do we know of anything else that's in Prince Philip's archive?
No, we don't really. It's all just speculation. I mean, I would refer to his uncle, though, Lord Mountbatten, who actually had a UFO allegedly land at his country estate in England. And this was reported by one of his workers. And we didn't know about this until fairly recently when Lord Mountbatten's archives were released. And that was in the 90s. So I imagine there must be stuff. There's stuff in Lord Mountbatten's archives, and there must be stuff in Prince Philip's. And Richard Felix, the historian we spoke to, has found evidence that the Queen actually asked for access to the Vatican secret archives to get material about UFOs. So that's also interesting, I think.
In the United States, where you mentioned there's this burgeoning UFO/UAP disclosure movement, there are sort of two schools of thought among believers in UFOs. There are people that believe that the folks at the top echelon of the government know everything that there is to know, or at least know a lot more than they're letting the public in on. And then there are other folks that believe that even the folks at the very top echelons of the government and the military, they're just as much in the dark as everybody else is. What does your research suggest about what the royal family knows? You seem, in a lot of the people that you interviewed for the film, to be expressing that the royal family has a lot of curiosity about this, but not necessarily a lot of knowledge. What about that? What do we think the royal family knows?
Yeah, I think you're right, really. I don't think they know the actual truth. Like you say, I don't think anyone actually does. I think that's the reality, and that's why even our Ministry of Defence, which Nick Pope, used to work for, they didn't know what was going on. I believe that. So there's no reason why the royal family would know what's going on. They do know that there's something strange, unexplained, happening, and it's more embarrassment, especially from the British Ministry of Defence, that there's something in our airspace which can't be explained. And I'm sure that's the same in the US, that maybe it is so far too weird that we can't kind of comprehend it properly. And it's something far advanced and far beyond our realm of comprehension. I suggest that's what's going on, which is why we're not getting the truth, because no one actually has the truth. Whether we get there, I don't know.
Well, we talked a little bit about King Charles. What do we know about his interest in the paranormal, in UFOs? Does he share his father's interest in those subjects?
I think so, yeah. There's evidence that he's attended a couple of UFO conferences when he was Prince. So he does have that interest, and he's always been into alternative thinking. He still has a homeopath appointed to Buckingham Palace. And there's all the stories about him talking to plants. So he's always had a bit of an open mind. And there's also, as you've probably seen in the film, there's the story about him flying a prototype UFO in Nova Scotia, Canada in 1975, where we have this diver, Dan Costello, Canadian diver, who claims to have witnessed Charles as one of three pilots flying an experimental craft, which was a bit like a helicopter, had dual rotor blades, but also had a blue ionic flame emitted from it and some strange electromagnetism. So, yeah, that's strange as well.
Yeah, I mean, as a cat lover, I can appreciate the meowing there. If people are just tuning in, we're talking with Mark Christopher Lee. He is the author and the director of The King of UFOs, Royal UFO Secrets Revealed. If you go to Tubi, you could just type in The King of UFOs and watch it for free. Mark, one of the people that you profile in the documentary talks about that the possibility that maybe UFOs aren't extraterrestrial at all. And Elon Musk, when he was talking with Tucker Carlson on Saturday, raised that same possibility. What about that, Mark? If these craft that people seem to be seeing aren't aliens, what might they be?
Well, there could be our own technology, I guess, which has been kept secret. They could be the original inhabitants of Earth. So there could be some sort of advanced civilization that was already here. So that in fact they're actually coming from outer space. They're already based here somewhere, either at the bottom of the oceans, or some people have suggested Antarctica as a possible base. I mean, that might tie in with the theories about Atlantis and all that. I'm not saying it's true, but these are various theories that are going around. It could be something from another dimension, another alternative reality alongside ours that sometimes comes in and overlaps with ours, which is what we see with UFOs and maybe other paranormal phenomena. So that's a possibility. And in fact, that kind of makes more sense than extraterrestrials. There's going to be life, we know that now, in the universe. It's going to be plentiful. But how it ever finds us in such a vast universe is beyond me, and how it comes here and crashes, and I don't know. It doesn't make no sense to me. It's more likely that they're already here in some form.
You spend a little bit of time talking about the hostile or helpful nature of UFOs. You chronicle people that refer to religious beliefs or just other beliefs that UFOs are somehow demonic. And then you chronicle others that talk about maybe UFOs, if they are extraterrestrial in nature, being here to help us being humanity and those of us that call Earth home. What conclusions, if any, did you draw on this front of the helpful versus harmful UFO theory?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think whatever it is would be helpful. Just in the fact that they'll be far more advanced and ahead of us by maybe billions of years. They could have wiped us out a long time ago. I think sometimes when they interact with us, it can give the appearance of being harmful just because they're so far more advanced than us, that the incompatibility, I think, creates that kind of fear. So, I mean, like I said, I have spoken to other people that, it's like all life. Most of it's good. There's a little bit that's bad, and it could be the same for this. So maybe people do encounter the same phenomena, but some of it's not, not as nice, I guess, to be a bit of a cliche, but that makes sense to me as well. We live in the same universe. It's going to be,
no doubt about it. Mark Christopher Lee has been my guest. You can check out his film, The King of UFOs. It's on Tubi. Also, the book, The King of UFOs, available on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Mark, great conversation. I hope you'll come back in the future.
Definitely. Thanks for having me on. It's been much appreciated. Thank you.
If you want to comment on any portion of my discussion with Mark Christopher Lee, feel free to give me a call, 1-646-720-0635. That's 1-646-720-0635. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Straight ahead.
If you're having problems with your septic system and you're tired of spending so much money each year to have it pumped, then SeptiClean is the answer for you. SeptiClean is an advanced specially formulated blend of bacteria used in the treatment of home and commercial septic systems. The breakdown of waste in your system relies on biological activity of naturally occurring bacteria. SeptiClean restores the natural biological process in your septic system and boosts the existing biological activity. SeptiClean is completely safe on all plumbing and can help prevent prevent expensive emergencies in pumping. SeptiClean has approximately 6 to 100 times the bacteria count of other leading off-the-shelf brands in a 1-year supply. SeptiClean comes in a water-soluble pack, which you flush down the toilet once a month with no mess or stress. Save time, money, and maintenance on your septic system. Find SeptiClean at Emporium True Value Hardware on Main Street in Sag Harbor, or visit micro-tab.com. That's micro-tabb.com. Micro-tabb.com.